Thank you for attending the third Cannabis Investor Webcast. I would like to thank our platinum sponsors, Lexaria Corporation and Viridian Capital and Research. Please view the Viridian Cannabis Industry Report, which can be found on our website or at viridiancr.com. Please type questions for the presenter in the questions box. Our speaker today is Chris Bunka, CEO and Chairman of Lexaria Corporation. Chris, give me a couple of seconds. I will now make you the presenter and turn the screen over to you.
Well, thank you, Derwin, for the opportunity to present using your great platform, and thank you to everybody who's called in or logged in. I do appreciate your time. As Derwin said, you are able to type questions into the little box, and we'll try to get to them once I'm done. So been lots of changes around Lexaria, and we'll try to go through that. So who are we? Well, most of you will probably know we've been a public company since 2005, I believe. We've been around a long time. Almost all of our history has been focused on oil and gas. We sold our small oil field just last month and have exited the oil and gas business completely. We've been making the transition since earlier in the year. In March of this year, in Canada, we announced that we were getting into the medical marijuana sector, and in July of this year, we submitted our license application to Health Canada. Since then, we've gotten through the pre-approval process and the first stage process, and we are currently in the second stage process. It's a 6-stage process. And in the United States, we announced that we have purchased 51% of the Pova tea, and this is a CBD or cannabinoid focused company with 2 very, very important patents pending. That the market, I think, really has not picked up on yet at all, and I'm glad that you people will have a chance to hear me and ask questions about it, because I think it's really important. I won't spend a lot of time on management directors. Suffice to say, we have what I think is the right mix of people in our company. I have been an entrepreneurial person since I was about 20 years old. I'm in my 50s, so that's a long time. Lots of experience in the public company, capital markets and so on. My CFO, Ms. Val Bular, has a ton of experience in financial and risk management. She's an accountant, lots and lots of experience. Tom Erkey is about to be named as president of the Pova Tea Company. He has 25 years in banking, trading, and so on. In Ontario, Canada, we have Don Shaxson as our Ontario's operation manager. And in our advisory board, we have people like Robert McAllister, who's the CEO of Endocannabinoid Corporation, fairly well-known medical marijuana company. Robert is also an old, close friend of mine. We have a very experienced master grower for the Ontario operation in Canada, and also for the operation in Canada, we have people like Brian Mullen, who is a former police chief for the Hamilton Police Force and a graduate of the FBI Academy. There are a number of other people as well. I don't mean to slight anyone by not mentioning them. There's just too many. So we do have a good team on board. I'm going to go fairly quickly through these slides. I'm certainly not going to read them out to you. I think you'll probably all be fairly familiar with the trends and the big picture stuff. But you may or may not know that medical marijuana was legalized in 2002 in Canada, so it's a 12-year-old industry there. There's a lot of court battles. There is a split, if you will, between the judiciary in Canada and the legislative bodies. The federal governments have generally not been as progressive as the courts are in this country, and therefore there are ongoing court things that go on. Despite that, There are something in the neighborhood of 40,000 people currently registered to use medical marijuana in Canada, and Health Canada, which is the body that governs the industry in Canada, expects that to rise to 450,000 over the next 9 years. Most people today, in fact, think that legal medical marijuana should be legal. Another poll came out this week that I read in the media that said 78% of Americans polled believe that was so. And for the first time ever, more than 50% of people polled are in favor of legal recreational marijuana. As you know, in May of this year, the U.S. House of Representatives voted for the first time ever in favor of medical marijuana by way of a bill that they passed. So things are changing, and that's kind of the rising tide that lifts all. The legal medical marijuana market in the U.S., according to ARC, is about 1.6 billion, growing incredibly fast. The illegal market, of course, is much larger. Address that because we have to work in compliance with all of the regulations. States are jumping on the bandwagon, and what is interesting at this stage of the industry, the growth, and I think that's kind of puts a lot of economic metrics. Well, of course, it's different, and it depends on your processes and your prices as well as, generally speaking, if you're going to speak in a general way, you would square foot of indoor production space on and produce something like $1,100 per square foot in gross revenue per year. Typical profit margins according to industry data. I'm not making a projection. I am saying this is the information that we are gathering from others. Generally costs about $100 a square foot to build within existing buildings, or maybe even a little bit more. Marijuana is typically selling in Canada. There is no typical price. It's all over the map. We've used a Health Canada number somewhere around $7.80 per gram, which means that a patient who's using a gram a day is going to spend a little less than $3,000 a year if they use that gram every day on marijuana. It's not inexpensive, but it is manageable, generally about the same as automobile insurance. Summary, giving you some relative ID size. There's a lot of reasons why people are becoming in favor of marijuana: the law enforcement costs, the incarceration costs, the size of the market, and changing focus as well. This is the location of the facility that we have under license application with Health Canada. This is through a joint venture with Endocannabinoid Corporation. The building is a gross size of about 75,000 square feet. We plan and hope to develop that in 3 stages. Because the capex to do it all would be too much. I am a big shareholder of the company, and one of the things important to me as a shareholder is to ensure that we do not dilute any more than we need to as we build the company. So we're going to try to do this in manageable pieces. We did obtain municipal approval in July of this year. I know that there's 2, I'm not going to name names, 1 or 2 other companies in the sector that didn't bother going through that process, and at least one of them is very regretful of that at this point. So we went to hearings and did all the things that we should do. And we are currently in the 2nd step of the process. I've been told by people in the industry, and it's not true or not, I've been told that half of all of the applications in Canada do not make it as far as we have on step 2. About half of them either stop or fail to get to stage 1. So a couple of events I have there is that we do have the joint venture with Endocannabinoid. That allows us to look at each other's deal flow. It also allows us to lay off part of half of all the costs with our partner. So our burn on developing this license application is a lot lower than somebody who has the entire thing. We've been listed in Canada on the Canadian Stock Exchange since 2009, and we've been listed in the United States, I think, since 2005, 2005 to 2006. We have around 34.5 million shares issued, which is relatively low for the sector. And at this moment in time, after closing the T acquisition, gearing that company up, closing the Belmont Lake oil field sale, et cetera, we have roughly $1 million in debt. We do have a lot of experience dealing with regulatory bodies like the SEC, the Environmental Protection Agency, state licensing boards, the regulators in Canada. So we're not new at it. And I think that we understand that you have to work hand in hand with regulators, regardless of the industry that you're in. We have announced, and we do have the paperwork put together for a second medical marijuana grow facility in Canada, a license application in Eastern Ontario. I will jump to the bottom of the page first and say that this is only in the planning stages at this point. We have not moved it along. There's a number of reasons for that, one of them being the first building we looked at. We determined that it probably was not going to pass Health Canada muster, and so we dropped that one. We sourced another one. If that facility goes forward, we've got a very, very advantageous deal signed with the building owners where they intend to contribute capital into our company up to $2 million. And they have already, in writing, agreed to contribute up to $1 million towards our build-out costs, which is a significant concession for us. The size of the first building we were looking at and subsequent buildings is in the 80,000 square foot range, again, to be developed in stages. But again, that's only in the final stages at this point, so we're not moving quickly on that. This picture, corporate transformation, is a picture of a tea farm. This is what tea looks like when it is being grown commercially. And we're really excited, really excited. And I want you to get excited about what we're doing in the alternative health markets. Give you an idea, 61%, not 5% or 10% of people such as use marijuana. 61% of all women over the age of 60 use calcium supplements. 150 million people in the United States every day use dietary supplements. People really embrace alternative health. It's obvious, but it needs to be said that virtually everyone uses some sort of alternative health method or remedy. And I didn't realize this until we started looking at the market, but tea is the most popular beverage on the planet, second only to water. And that is also true in the United States, which you would never believe from the marketing efforts of the coffee or the soft drink companies. 79 billion cups of tea are consumed in the U.S. every year. 79 billion, imagine that. 150 million Americans drink it every day. And 3 billion cups are served per day around the world. Now, tea has a lot of beneficial properties. We're going to get into that. Typical tea bag has a 20th or 10th of an ounce, depending on the size, and makes a couple of cups. It's hard to say that exactly because some people, just like coffee, prefer their drink very strong, and they want a single 6-ounce cup out of a tea bag. Other people will easily re-steep and will steep 16 to 20 ounces per tea bag. So there is a lot of variation in there. So what's up with tea? I'm not talking about cannabidiol or anything yet. I'm just talking about tea. Well, there's been over 3,000 existing medical and pharmacological studies on the benefits of tea. There are studies that say that tea has reduced the risk of ovarian cancer. There are studies that say it has reduced the risk of colon cancer, skin cancer. There are doctors and researchers out there who feel that the bioactive compounds in tea interact with almost all the cells in your body. So there's lots of good reasons. Quite frankly, we should all be drinking tea every day, regardless of anything else that I'm going to say in this presentation. Tea is almost calorie-free. It has a few calories, but almost none. It is rich in flavonoids and is a very strong antioxidant. Some studies have found that energy expenditures have increased by over 100 calories within 24 hours. And that body fat and blood pressure can drop as a result of drinking tea. I can go on, but the point is that there is a lot of research on tea over a long, long period of time that says it's a very healthy thing for people to drink. We recently rebranded the company that we bought just in the last 60 days to Bipova or Bipova tea. It's a play on words. It means absorbing life, and it's really important to us to think about what that is. And I have to spend a bit of time here because this is really important. So we currently own 51% of this company. We have the paperwork in place to increase that to 75% ownership by way of a predetermined formula. There are two very, very intelligent, highly trained ladies who founded the company and founded the intellectual property and filed the patents for that property. And I have to tell you what this is, because there's a lot of people out there saying that they're selling marijuana tea or they're selling cannabinoid tea. And that's fine, they may be doing that. But most of those people are taking the leaves or the stems of the plant and maybe mixing it with some other tea and calling that their drink, that's their tea. That's not what we do, not at all. Instead, we buy legal CBD oil from legally grown crops in Canada and Europe. It is legally imported into the United States. It is processed into a high ratio percentage CBD oil. And then we have an actual manufacturing process to take that oil and infuse it inside of lipids. What's a lipid? Well, a lipid is typically a fatty acid. And the word lipid is one of the most important things you need to take away from this presentation, because the endocannabinoid system, as you're going to see, is a lipid-based system. The body likes lipids. It does not, your digestive system does not particularly like or enjoy raw cannabidiol. And some people, more than a few people, have complained that ingesting raw cannabidiol, such as you might get if you, say, squirted the cannabidiol oil into a cookie recipe, causes diarrhea or other GI distress. Because we bind the CBD inside of lipids, that distress goes away. That's why we use the word comforted. It's a more comforting process. Also, because we are binding it within a lipid, we believe that it's possible. We have not done any studies on this, so I cannot make the statement that it's true, but we believe that it is possible and likely that the bioavailability or the effectiveness of that cannabidiol that you ingest through our drink will be higher to your body. There will be more of it available from your body to you. This tea will be available for sale within about 2 weeks. We would have had it available next week, but we had some labeling and manufacturing things we had to do. So we're looking at the single-serving tea sector right now, i.e. tea bags and even possible K-cup type processes. We're looking at introducing flavor teas and tea bags in 2015. That won't take us too long. We're looking at entering the coffee market in 2015. One thing you should always know, all of our Vipova products will use the same patent-pending process to infuse those CBDs within lipids. And this is why the comforting and effective experience is an important piece of data for you. Tea is a huge market, as I've already shown, so is coffee, but we are looking at other markets. We're looking at things like protein energy bars, protein energy smoothies, spa and skin products, and more. I cannot tell you when any of those, if any of those will in fact be entered. I can tell you that we're looking at it, we're talking to potential partners, and we sure as heck expect to be entering at least some of those markets as soon as we possibly can. I'm going over this quickly, but there's a lot of information and there's a lot of importance to this because each of these sectors is well established. It's not something that's funky and new to people. People understand what these things are. They're used to using these sorts of products. And our patented technology to put the CBDs in there, we think we're a leap ahead of everybody else. Now, I'm not going to get into the chemistry too much. I'm not a scientist. You guys should all know that. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a, sorry about that. I'm not a scientist and I'm not a researcher, so I can only give you the layperson's explanation. But I can tell you this much. There's nearly 500 different ingredients in the marijuana plant, or the cannabis plant. Roughly 85 of those are cannabinoid molecules. About a half a dozen of those 85 are psychoactive, like THC. The rest of them are not. And cannabidiol, CBD, is the most abundant form of cannabinoid in the plant. Usually comprises up to around 35% of the extracts. You should also know that cannabidiol and cannabinoids are available not just in the medical marijuana plant, but more importantly in the hemp plant, which does not have almost any THC whatsoever. Also, they're also available in echinacea. The echinacea species is also full of cannabinoids, although not nearly as much as you would find in the hemp plant. The human body has an endocannabinoid system. Why there are things that work. Just like there is an opiate system in the body that reacts with extracts from the poppy plant, heroin would be a negative one, but morphine or codeine for people who need pain relief would be a less negative one. There is an endocannabinoid system. They're widespread, the cannabinoid receptors are widespread throughout your body. CB1 receptors are typically found in the central nervous system, lungs, liver, and kidneys. CB2 are generally found in the human immune and circulatory system. They've been widely linked in many papers and research studies to anti-inflammatory responses and other medical functions. And it is fairly widely acknowledged that lower numbers of circulating endocannabinoids will lead to reduced signaling at your receptor sites. So that can lead to lots of dysfunction. CBD, cannabinoids, cannabidiol, is non-psychoactive. It's derived from agricultural hemp, which is imported legally into the United States. CBD is legal in all 50 states, non-toxic, and it's widely researched. And if you'd like to do some research at a very nonpartisan site, go to pubmed.gov and you will find hundreds and hundreds of research papers on this topic. So it is actually quite well understood. I love quoting government sources. So in Canada, they've published a 160-odd page booklet for healthcare professionals. Health Canada published this. and I won't read this out, but your opening paragraph, virtually the opening paragraph in that booklet, says that the endocannabinoid system has been around for, and it has been implicated in a broad number of physiological and pathophysiological processes. And they talk about neural development, immune function, inflammation, metabolism, cardiovascular, digestion, bone development, bone density, more and more and more, number of things. This is from a Government of Canada source. And from that same source, here is their image of basically how it works. And again, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it, but you're looking at the connection between two synapses. And in my layperson's terms, the way I'll describe this is to say that when your neurons are trying to communicate with each other, there's a little gap. And for people who are old enough, there's something in between that's sort of like a spark plug. And if you know what a spark plug used to do in cars, it ignited the fuel-air mixture and made your engine work. The endocannabinoid system is sort of like that. If your endocannabinoid system is not working well, the spark or the message in between this system doesn't really get carried. The message doesn't get communicated, and it leads to all sorts of dysfunction. When the endocannabinoid system is working correctly, the message is communicated correctly, and your body will develop whatever response or take whatever action it's actually being asked to do. Just the fine print on the previous page slide, so I won't get into it. It's beyond my page rate. But it's not just the Canadian government that says that cannabinoids are a good thing. Widely renowned, often criticized. This is an extract from the famous so-called 507 patent that is held by the U.S. federal government. It does tick me off a little bit to realize that the original patent, the underlying patent filed by the U.S. government, was filed in the 1940s. You can look this up yourself at the U.S. Patent Office. The U.S. federal government has filed renewed patents or newer patents on this theme every 10 or 15 years since, the most recent one in 2002. And in their patent application, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says this: that cannabinoids have been found to have antioxidant properties, and so on and so on. They say that it's useful in things like oxidation-associated diseases, age-related, inflammatory, and autoimmune diseases. They mention Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and others. So there's a clear benefit here to these molecules that governments around the world recognize. So what's the legal deal on CBD? Well, if a plant has more than 0.3% THC, it's generally considered to be marijuana, and it is illegal, certainly because of what's in it. If it has less than 0.3%, it may be legal, and in our cases, it is. Hemp is legal to grow and is regulated in around 30 countries around the world. Under some conditions, it can actually be grown in the United States, but it's pretty tightly regulated. So it is changing, and right now there are 19 states in the U.S. that theoretically can grow hemp. CBD oils, such as the ones that we use, are extracted from agricultural hemp. They are not extracted from marijuana. That's why they're legal throughout all 50 states. Conversely, they're not legal. CBD oils are not legal under the new MMPR legislation in Canada. That's why right now we don't believe we can sell in Canada, but we can in the United States. So, U.S. hemp industry retail sales 2013 was $581 million. About $171 million of that was in food and supplements. Probably a little higher than that because some of the major retailers don't break out their sales in this sector, and it is becoming mainstream. Growth rate very, very strong, about 24-25% per annum, and it's larger, about 3 times larger, in the U.S. than is the Canadian medical marijuana industry. So I'll give you an idea of size. We like it a lot. There's a lot of room to grow. One of our competitors has put this table out, and they're talking about some of the different diseases and conditions that they say might be potential cannabinoid therapy markets. And over on the right-hand side, you can see the size of those medical condition markets. Obviously, any CBD component would be a small fraction of that, but the point is well made that it's a very, very large market. So, what's our immediate strategy? Well, in Canada, as a company for Lexaria, we have the MMPR license application that's weaving its way through the process. We advanced to the second stage this month, and we are working on continued advancement on that. Separately, through the OVA-T, with the 2 patents pending, we acquired 51% of that company last month. We will have the sale, the T available for sale in the next couple of weeks. And the OVA website and the National U.S. Distribution Center are all being launched at the same time. We'll do 1-800 phone calling to order your products and so on. We're looking at the launch of a number of different CBD-infused tea, food, and beverage offerings, and those will all be announced in the months and quarters to come. If and as we are able to put that together. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I do want to make the distinction too. Remember this much. Lexaria is 2 things. In Canada, it has a medical marijuana strategy. For today, that's the only place that strategy exists. In the United States, it has the POVA, which is not associated with medical marijuana at all. So they are 2 separate animals. In the medium term, we are looking in Canada at a multiple licenses strategy. I was the first one to talk about that many, many months ago, because I believe that multiple licenses and locations equals a lot of safety for investors and protects against mishaps. Since we announced that policy way back in March and April of this year, others have started to jump onto that bandwagon, which I think is a good thing. In the United States, we've already completed our first acquisition in the CBD sector. That's with the POVA. We are looking at all of the things we need to do to make that a premium CBD brand, both nationwide and internationally. And we hope to be able to vertically integrate that into a bioscience company. The intellectual property with the patents we think is very, very important. Again, I'll just stress that one more time. It's going to take a lot of work to derive the value from that, but it's something that we will be doing. Very briefly, here's a quick snapshot on what our company looks like. We're now 34.5 million shares out. I am personally the largest shareholder of the company. I have around 5 million shares. I keep buying, so I'm not sure day to day how much I have. And the stock price has been on a bit of a roller coaster, some improvement over the last couple of months, and it seems to be smoothing out a little bit, which makes my life easier. And there's our corporate offices. So I'm done with that part of the presentation, and if there's any questions, I would love to be able to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Give me a couple of seconds to queue up questions. Okay, the first question is, would this have application for giant cell vasculitis?
I'm sorry that I couldn't answer that. I do not know. I don't know the answer to that. I'll see if I can find out, but as of this moment, I do not know that.
Okay, next question. When will the Poviva LXRP website be introduced?
So we are working on, oh my God, I'm so proud of our people. I have to tell you, we have people on the East Coast, we have people on the West Coast. And everybody is working sort of 10 to 12-hour days with kind of a 4 to 6 hour overlap in the middle. So we have people working really, really hard on a number of projects. 2 of those projects are 2 new websites. So there will be a new Vipova website launched, as I say, within about 2 weeks, probably less than that. That website will be concerned only with the CBD business. It will have an e-commerce component. You'll be able to order your tea online. It has a great deal of research available that you'll be able to download. I think we're starting with a couple of dozen fairly technical articles, and there will be a blog capability and so on that site. There will also be a second website that will be launched probably the middle or late January, and that will be a brand new Lexaria Energy website. That one has had to take kind of the back seat to the other. So that's our expectation on the website development over the next, say, 5 weeks or so.
And could you pronounce the name of the tea company?
We're arguing about it internally. Some of us are calling it Vipova, some are calling it Vipova, and some are calling it Bipova. Vipova or Vipova seems to be getting the most traction, so maybe we'll have a little contest on that and decide which way to go.
Okay, yeah, I think Bipova sounds too much like bipolar. But next question. Do you have laboratory studies available for review?
Now, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is we have not commissioned any studies yet. So we are not making any particular claims or statements ourselves. What we have done is we have, we have started to amalgamate and collect the studies that have been done by others. Most of those are, or the vast majority of those are less than 10 years old because it's a new topic, and most of them are less than 5 years old. And a number of those will be available as soon as we get the first website up and running in the next couple of weeks. So the answer is yes, you will have some available at the new website.
Next question. Are the patents pending or are they granted, and what type of patents are they?
They are patents pending. There are 2 of them, and they are process patents. I don't want to go too far into exactly how they work and what they do. I will say they are quite novel. Again, you know, I'm not a patent lawyer or anything, but to the best of my ability to search them, they do appear to be very novel. I haven't seen anything quite like them. The process is fairly simple, but the idea is a new one, a genuinely new idea. It's the best that we can see. You know, I actually spoke with my securities lawyer yesterday and asked him for his advice if a question about the patents comes up. And, you know, he gave me all the information about making sure I'm careful, don't use any numbers and stuff like that. So I understand that, and I hope most of you do as well. I can't use numbers. I will tell you that I am super, super excited about those patents. I've been involved in entrepreneurial activity for 30 years, and this has got me excited in a way that I don't think I ever have been. If we execute correctly, I think that is key. If we execute correctly, I think that properly executed, those patents could be the biggest thing I've ever been part of in my life. They could do a lot of good for a lot of people. And we don't know the answer to this, but if we are able to get into clinical studies, and there's the first if, there's the second if those clinical studies are positive and show that the bioavailability of the CBDs is in fact higher as a result of our process than without our process, we really got something. I mean, we really got something. We shouldn't be, well, I can't say that either, but we would really have something. It would be something to be excited about. That's as far as I can go.
Next question. How many cups does a 1.5 ounce tin make? Will you be retailing? Okay, I guess the second part of the question is, will you be retailing it through health food stores? Do you manufacture, bag, and label?
Gotcha. Okay, so everybody likes their tea different. That's why a comment I made earlier. So if you do not re-steep, and if you want to use one serving of tea or 1 cup of tea only, and then you throw it out, throw the tea, a 1.5 ounce tin will make around 25 cups of tea, or 25 servings. If you like to re-steep, or if you like to brew a slightly, use it only one time, but brew a slightly larger cup, you could have anywhere between 25 and 50 cups of tea from that one tin. So that's the answer there. 25 to 50 will be the answer. As far as retail, we have not yet set up our retail distribution or started to set that up. What we are looking at over the next, let's say to the end of January, we're looking at getting it on a couple of very, very popular and well-known e-commerce, national e-commerce sites that everybody knows, places like Amazon.com. You can buy today, you can go to Amazon.com today and you can buy raw CBD oil. I'll warn you, it generally tastes awful. That's one of the reasons our patent is important. Although a lot of manufacturers will try to cover it up with peppermint flavoring or something like that. But we'll be trying to sell it online initially. We also are in discussions with a couple of particular groups about introducing it to their, let's call them user base or user groups. And then as the first quarter of 2015 unfolds, we'll be looking at retail distribution. As of today, we don't have any, and I don't expect to have any. Probably at the earliest would be February or March.
Next question. The CBD market is quickly filling up with options. How will strength and percentage of CBD be controlled?
Good question. So how will the percentage and quantity of CBD be controlled? There are a number of ways to do it. There are no standards in the industry today. I wish there were, because when there's no standards, people get confused. So we're not publishing the quantities of CBDs in our products as of today. We have a pretty good idea of what they are, but we're just not publishing it. Because we are looking for some guidance and some agreement on what those standards should be. So one example will be, for example, some people will sell CBD oil that's 15% CBD. Some people will sell it that's 20, some will sell 25. Obviously, all CBD oil is not created equal. So right there's a huge amount of variance. Hopefully, most of the industry or all of the industry is always using standard and legal sources for their CBD oil. We know that the sources that we buy from are legal. We have lab certification of everything that we do. And I will tell you that we've had a lot of discussion internally on this, and we're very proud of our own testing process. So when we buy our CBD oil, it is tested by the party that we're purchasing it from. We then retest it, and we make sure that it's tested before it goes out the door. So we are very comfortable with what's in there. Sorry for being coy and not answering completely, but we're looking for some standardization before we get into that side of it. And I hope that all consumers get a clearer picture from all of the manufacturers in the industry. So the last comment on that question I will say is this. We also hope and believe that because of our patents, because of our infusion of the CBD inside of lipids that your body will recognize and use more of the CBD than it would if it was through any other process where it's not found within a lipid. Therefore, and I have no idea, I'm just saying this conversationally, if our process were, say, 2 times more effective at delivering that CBD to your body, then all other things being equal, you would be getting twice as much CBD usable as you would with somebody who didn't have that process. We don't know, we're speculating, but that's what we hope.
Next question. Are there any states this product cannot be sold in?
Not that I'm aware of. We have had pretty exhaustive opinions from experts and lawyers, and so far as we are aware, it is legal in all 50 states so long as the CBD oil is derived from a legal source, and our CBD oil is. So we believe it is legal in all 50 states.
Next question. How does Lexaria plan to proceed in the event that the federal government opts to legalize recreational marijuana use in Canada? Will they continue to focus solely on medical use?
I'm really not being coy. I don't know the answer to that. It's something we talk about a lot. You are all probably familiar with the fact that we have tried to create some standardization in the industry with regards to policies on use of this product. Listen, we came out months ago and we said we're not going to sell medical marijuana with THC above a certain level to underage people. We're not doing this. We're not in this industry to make kids high. That's not what it's about. So if the federal government in either country makes it legal for recreational use, I don't know. I don't know today what our policy would be. Certainly the value of a license, I mean, here's one thing I could say. I know the government in Canada very well. They like to be involved in things. If they make it legal recreationally in Canada, that is not the same as to say it would not be a licensed industry. It would be a heavily regulated industry. So if we had a license to do that, it would certainly be worth a lot of money. What we would do with that, again, I just don't know the answer. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer than that, but I don't know what it is.
Next question. Are you currently engaged in a capital raise? If so, what is the amount and at what value are you assessing for the company?
We are not. As of right now, I'm very happy to be able to say we are not looking for any capital. As I said earlier, we have about $1 million in the bank. That's not a ton of money, but I'm cheap. I'm known to be pretty thrifty, and we don't need any money right now. If we need to go to the market for money at any point, let's say, I don't know, in the next 6 or 9 months, you can take that as very, very, very good news that something really positive is going on and we need capital to expand. So as of today, the answer is no. If we do have to, I certainly hope it's at a much stronger valuation than it is today.
Well, that concludes our last question. Any last comments, Chris?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think some of those questions were fantastic. I appreciate all of them. Keep an eye on what we're doing. Please tell all your friends about the Pova tea and what we're doing. I think it's an amazing product. Listen, I think it's an incredible product. I think it's something that people should try. As soon as we get that website launched and we have our sales available, please give it a try. That's what I would like to leave you with. Help us sell this tea and watch how it changes the world.
Well, thank you, Chris. That concludes our presentation. The next